Hello and welcome to the Chief Editor's session of Haaga-Helia Business Innovation Conference. This session will focus on tips for writing a good paper. My name is Erose Sthapit and I will be the moderator for this session, which will run for 1 hour. I will first introduce each of the chief editors and then I will ask them to present the journals that they represent. So after focusing on the presentations, we will then move on to the joint discussion for 30 minutes, and the focus is on tips on how to write a good paper. And the remaining 15 minutes we will be utilizing by taking in questions from the audience. So I would kindly like to request our audience, if you have any questions for the chief editors, please do type them in the chat section on the right-hand corner, and during the later half, the remaining 15 minutes, we will be asking those questions to our chief editors. I will now take the opportunity to start the session by briefly introducing the chief editors. Today we have Professor Buhalis from Bournemouth joining us from the UK. Hello, Professor Buhalis.
Hello, how are you?
Professor Buhalis is the chief editor, is the editor-in-chief of the journal Tourism Review. Professor Buhalis is a strategic management and marketing expert with specialization in information communication technology applications in the tourism, travel, hospitality, and leisure industries. He is the director of the e-Tourism Center for e-Tourism Lab and the deputy director of the International Center for Tourism and Hospitality Research at Bournemouth University. And also joining us, we have Professor Cihan Cobanoglu, all the way from Florida. Welcome, Professor Cihan.
Thank you.
And Professor Cihan Cobanoglu is the editor of the Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Technology and the Journal of Global Business Insights. He is the chair professor of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at University of South Florida's Muma College of Business in Sarasota, Manti. He also serves as the director of the M3 Center for Hospitality, Technology and Innovation, and is the coordinator of international programs for the college. And we also have Professor Fevzi Okumus. Welcome, Professor Fevzi.
Good morning, hello.
Yes, it's good afternoon here, so good morning there. Professor Fevzi Okumus is the chair professor within the Hospitality Services Department at the University of Central Florida's Rosen College of Hospitality Management. He has worked in various functional areas and roles before becoming an educator. He is the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management and is one of the leading journals in the hospitality and tourism field. And he is also the editor of the Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Insights. So welcome all the chief editors once again. And the floor is yours. So this is the opportunity to actually share your journals that you represent. So, Professor Buhalis, would you like to start?
Thank you very much. Fantastic to be with you virtually. It's really, I've been so many times in your campus and in Finland, and I always love it, especially this time of the year when winter is kind of coming slowly and engaging with all nature and everything. And I hope that this coronavirus is going to go away soon and we're going to be able to travel and come and visit you sometime soon. Great opportunity to talk to you and fantastic to be with my good friends Fevzi and Cihan and to provide some information about how we can make people more successful in order to be able to be more productive and engage with our journals in a better way. And Erose, you have already had experience because you have published many papers in Tourism Review. You are probably the most prolific author in Tourism Review in the last 2 or 3 years. And now it's great opportunity that I can do something for you. I don't know if I can share my screen and I can show you very quickly some information about Tourism Review. That will actually provide some insights to people on what we are doing. So, as you know, the Tourism Review is the most established tourism journal. It was started in 1946, and it is now, we're doing the 75th volume of the journal. I took over 3 or 4 years ago in 2017, and we are progressing several things. Tourism Review is a generic journal. That means that it can attract any tourism content, and it's looking for original, creative, multi-disciplinary tourism contributions on a whole range of things. But we're generic. We are taking everything. So increasingly, we do not take hospitality. In the beginning, we were taking more hospitality papers because we had a lot of demand for it. But now we are going increasingly. I'm sending a lot of the papers that they are hospitality related. I'm sending them to Fevzi in contemporary hospitality management. So it's a blessing that we are dealing with all kinds of areas. You can see what has happened and how the journal has been developing in the last few years. So when I took over, it will publish about 21 articles in about 4 years. In 2017, we published 29 articles. In 2018, we published 36. In 2019, we published 55 because of the demand, and more papers were coming, and we're dealing with that. In 2020, we published 105 articles because on the 75 one, our Jubilee year, we published 75 small perspective papers. And as from next year, 2021, we will be publishing a stable number of about 80. We became SSCI last year, so we got the first impact factor was 1.06. The second impact factor in 2019 was 2.9, and we're really keen to see what's going to happen in 2020. We're looking to the side score tracker, and in November 2020 it was 3.6. So the journal is growing really, really fast. And you can see some of the metrics and the downloads and everything that's happening. And perhaps this is the most interesting slide. It's on the Web of Science, the growth of citations. And the growth of citations, it's really reflecting the quality of the papers that we're increasing. So you can see how this has grown in the last few years. And now we are Q1 on CIMACO for both geography, planning and development, and tourism, leisure and hospitality management. So the journal is going to a good place, and we're doing great things. Please download papers, read them carefully and regularly. Ask your students to read them, review papers, submit papers, and invite us to support your events and your activities. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Professor Buhalis, for your presentation of the journal, and it definitely looks very promising with the impact factor of 2.908. So all the best with that.
And you get a lot of citations yourself, Erose, so you're contributing.
Yes, thank you. I will continue to do so. Okay, next we have Professor Cihan. Would you like to present your journal? Yes.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, thanks for inviting me, and I'm also very happy to be with my fellow editors here, Professor Buhalis and Okumus. So let me share my screen with you very quickly. I'll just introduce my journals. Again, one more time, it's wonderful to be invited to this beautiful conference. And I've been to Finland many times. Of course, we all prefer to be there in person and also visit your beautiful campus of Haaga-Helia Business School. So in terms of the journals, I am the editor-in-chief of 2 journals. One of them is the Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Technology. This is published by Emerald Publishing, and the other one is Journal of Global Business Insights. This is published by the University of South Florida. And I will tell you a little bit about it. I am from University of South Florida, as you have said. My School of Hospitality and Tourism Management is part of the MUMA College of Business. Before I do, I just would like to inform all the participants about a post-crisis hospitality management certificate program that the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management is putting together. And we would like to invite all of you. This is a 100% online certificate program, free of charge. And it is designed over 7 weeks for 7 different sessions. We already had 3, but you can join still and watch these pre-recorded lectures. and also be able to get a certificate if you wish to do so from University of South Florida. As you can see, these are the three. Actually, the third lecture, we just did it last night. It had 1.3K views, and the other one's almost 10,000 views. So it's really highly regarded program. This is just as an offer to those of you who are watching this presentation. And University of South Florida M3 Center, which is the Center for Hospitality Technology Innovation. Basically, it's a research center at the University of South Florida. As a matter of fact, one of the journals that I'm going to present is published by the M3 Center. Thanks to the University of South Florida for their support library, and of course, John McKibben, who had made a multi-million-dollar donation to our university that makes this open access publishing possible. As you can see, we have a brand new journal, Journal of Global Hospitality and Tourism. Of course, we invite everybody to submit to any of these journals. In terms of JHTT in 2010, actually in 2009, I had this idea of creating a journal dedicated to technology in hospitality and tourism. This is a little bit, gambling, because when you create a journal that is specific, laser focused, it's not like general tourism or hospitality journals that they can accept anything in terms of related to hospitality and tourism. This is more a little bit direct focus. But I felt at that time in 2009 that there was a need for this kind of journal. I proposed this to Emerald and they have accepted. So I'm the founding editor, proud founding editor. And you look at this progress in 10 years. It's a young journal. Of course, probably it's one of the youngest journals that achieved SSCI in this such a short period of time. Born in 2010, so it's only 10 years. And we are in Scopus site score, as you can see, 4.3 site score, which is very, very great, again, for a laser-focused journal. Because as you know, those kind of like articles are related to a particular area, which is also cited by other focused articles. Also in 2020, even though 2020 did not really bring a lot of great things to the humanity, but one of the good things that brought that we got the news that JHTT is now part of Social Sciences Citation Index, and we got our first impact factor as 2.796. So hopefully we are going to increase this as we go along. And wonderful journal. The other one is Journal of Global Business Insights. This is a brand new journal. It's a little bit different than Emerald Journal, JHTT, because it is designed as an open access, 100% open access, which means that it's free to submit, publish, and read. Again, thanks to the contribution from University of South Florida. This is, USF here is taking the role of a publisher. And we believe that, as you can see, that our articles has been downloaded almost 30,000 times freely without anything. So, and thank you, and I'm happy to engage in conversations. As you can see, this is my contact information. And if you were to scan this QR code, you are going to go to my contact page. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, Professor Xian. So next, I think I would like to request Professor Fevzi, if you could like to present your journal.
Good morning. Oh, let me share my screen, sorry. Good morning again, or good afternoon. It's wonderful joining you today. Thanks for the invitation and warm greetings from Orlando, University of Central Florida's Rosen College of Hospitality Management. I will be rather brief. It's great to be with my good friends, Professor Buhalis and Professor Cobanoglu. I took over IJCHM in 2007, and the first issue that I edited started getting published in 2008. So I have been in charge of IJCHM for almost 13 years. When I took over IJCHM, it was a regional UK-based second-tier journal, and it was more applied. And then my aim, I said two things. I said I will make this journal an SSCI journal, because there were not many SSCI hospitality journals at that time. Even none of the hospitality journals was SSCI. Only tourism management and annals, I think, were first, and then JTR. So we applied in 2009, and then in 2010, IJCHM became an SSCI journal. We basically publish about 12 issues per year. When I became the editor in 2007, 8, 9, we were publishing 7 issues, 56 articles. In some cases, some issues, we publish 40 articles now. Okay, so our impact factor last year, 2019, for 2019 is 5.667, which is huge. I didn't expect this 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. This is wonderful, but more and more, I'm not really crazy about the impact factor. It's not the impact factor, but how your articles, you publish an article, the journal is impacting on people, not just the citations. You can see here Scopus figures as well. The journal is amazing. It is doing really well. I am really proud of it. So in 2019, we received 1,041 submissions. As of today, we received 1,315 submissions. So on average, we are receiving 4 to 6, sometimes 7 submissions per day. Average time to first decision is 38 days. And then reviewers complete their reviews on average in 22 days. We invite 3 reviewers, at least. We invite 7, 8 reviewers, but we require at least 3 reviewers. At least one of them is an editorial board member to look at papers. Average days from submission to acceptance is 52 days, but sometimes we are faster. Sometimes it takes 3-4 months. And this is the editorial team I have. They all work very hard. We have around 140 editorial board members. But I work with these wonderful colleagues very closely. They help me on a daily basis, right? So in 2017, Emerald approached us because IJCHM was very successful, and they asked us whether we would consider starting a new journal. And I said, why not? And at that time, I had a wonderful friend, colleague, Dr. Matilda van Niekerk. She was the managing editor of IJCHM. We developed a 30-40 page new journal proposal and submitted it. But the person who invited us from Emerald to create a new journal had moved on. So we had to justify why we needed a new journal. In 2018, Emerald approved it. And in 2018, we started publishing. The first 2 years, we published 4 issues, about 20-25 articles. This year, we published already 5 issues and about 25 or 30 articles. The journal is doing incredibly well. So far, this last year, it received 137 articles, submissions. And then guess what? This year, 220 submissions so far, right? And turnaround time is 4 weeks, the review process. Acceptance rate is good, about 30%. And I say this is the journal for young, dedicated scholars and PhD students. And we welcome special issue proposals. I'm really happy with this journal, and it's already included in the Emerging Citation Index. And it will be a Scopus journal, and I assume it will become an SSCI as well very soon. That's all from me, and you're all welcome to ask questions about these journals. JHTI, we publish both hospitality and tourism. In IJCHM, we publish management of hospitality and tourism businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Fevzi. So now I'd like to delve directly into the topic of this session, which is to provide tips on how to write a good paper. So I would start with the first question, and the question is, if you could provide us with 5 to 10 tips for writing a good paper, and starting from the important to the most important. So Professor Xian, would you like to start? If you could provide your insights regarding the tips for how to write a good paper.
Yes, of course. First of all, when I'm talking to my students and other people, that I always tell them that a good paper starts with good topic, right? And I always tell people that good topic starts with good knowledge. And good knowledge starts with good reading. So the first thing that everybody should be doing if they would like to write a good, impactful article, that they need to read. And when I say read, I'm not just only referring to peer-reviewed articles. I am talking about reading, scanning the environment, reading journal articles, reading newspapers, reading industry magazines, attending conferences like this one, and talking to industry people and other people. So once you grasp the idea, because this allows us, when we start reading and looking at what has been done already and what are the problems of the industry. Of course, hospitality and tourism is an applied field. Therefore, we really cannot avoid the industry as well. Once you do that, you really start to understand, kind of look at the issue from the 30,000 feet view, bird eye view. So when you look at what has been done and what needs to be done, then you can identify the gaps, which is then your research topic. And then you start with this good research topic, and then you go from there. And of course, one of the things that my PhD advisor, Dr. Pat Moria, has taught me, whenever I went to him with one research idea, he always stopped and asked me, so what? What is going to happen when you do this research? What kind of problem it's going to bring a solution? What kind of solutions it will offer to the world? Just like Dr. Okumus was telling earlier, that the impact is not just the citations that your paper receives. It's really how it can be applied. How can it change the world, for so to speak? So, and I don't want to talk more because I know that Professor Buhalis and Okumus will tell more. But again, the first step, I will just say that for writing a good paper is to be able to understand the gaps, which comes from reading a lot in the literature and also filling yourself. And maybe let me add, and I will pass to Professor Buhalis and Okumus, is that you need to focus. You know, sometimes I see researchers that publish in food and beverage, and they publish in lodging, they publish in, it's just not possible. I mean, our human brains that need to focus. So I also, once you start reading in the area that you want to specialize, and then you start really understanding what is being done and then what needs to be done.
Thank you for the insights, Professor Xian. So, Professor Buhalis, would you like to add on to what Professor Xian said about grasping this idea of actually reading before even thinking of writing something, or writing that one-pager or the idea itself?
I agree totally with Cihan. I think anything we publish needs to have relevance and impact. Impact not only on the citation side, but also impact to society. And there are some global challenges right now that are requiring us to have innovative ideas and innovative ways of dealing with those. The world is full of problems, and we really need to somehow create solutions using research to provide relevance and to provide good knowledge that people can use. Quite often, the papers that we get is a Me Too kind of paper. They are just repetition, and they are not real contribution to theory. There's no contribution to society, and these papers are getting rejected. The other thing that I'm really particular about, especially in tourism review, is the applicability of the research globally. Sometimes you get papers that they are really dealing with a very small location. What happens in Tampere, and only what happens in Tampere. And I say, okay, what happens in Tampere or in Jyväskylä or in any other place? How is that going to apply to different places around the world? And I think that is my criteria, that to pass through desk rejection in tourism review, one of the things that you need to prove is that your ideas will be applicable to places globally and will not be applied to a particular kind of context and nowhere else. So you need to have a contribution to theory, contribution to practice, and you need to have global kind of relevance.
So, if I paraphrase that, I think that was pretty much related to the broader managerial implications besides the theoretical impact or the theoretical contribution that the paper has. And Professor Fevzi, would you like to add something to this?
I think Dimitrios and Cihan finish everything, but I agree with them. Let me add a couple of things, perhaps repeat some of the things they mentioned. I will say to write a good paper, you must be passionate. You must have passion for research, right? Some of us love food. When we see nice food, the food we like, we smile, okay? Some activities, if you like running or sightseeing, okay, you are happy from your face, you can see. So when you are doing research, you must be passionate and positive and happy doing it. Not because you have to do research, but because you love it. And then the next one is curiosity. You must be curious for life to write good papers. And I will say my good papers 20 years ago are not good papers anymore. It's the progress, right? You can write a good paper now, but in 10 years' time when you read, or even 2 years' time when you read it, you will say, my God, how they published that paper. So there is also a progression of your ability and also the field. 5 years ago, we published articles in journals. Today, you cannot publish those articles because the field has moved. So curious, we must be curious all the time, what's happening, what the industry is facing, what are the things are changing, and then have specific research questions in mind. I like Cihan's recent social media post. He's asking about event quality, online event quality, virtual event quality. What happened for the last 7-8 months, we all have these virtual conferences, yes, many virtual events. But I'm not sure whether we know a lot about service quality, but not many people question virtual event quality, service quality. Right? This is a new concept. So he's curious. He has a curious mind, questioning everything, following current trends. And the other thing is, I will tell my PhD students or junior researchers, spend 6 months reading what has happened before, who wrote what. Right? So my PhD was on strategic management. I read like 1 year crazy. Read about strategic management, almost everything, anything, not in hospitality, but in strategic management, organizational behavior, change management. And then after 6 months, I started understanding. I was lost. And I see some junior faculty members, PhD students, after they read 10, 20 articles, they feel they are experts. You know, how come you can become an expert after reading 20, 30 articles? You must be an expert in that area, digest everything, should be able to see different schools of thought. That is the foundation. And then once you digest previous research, who is the leading authors, who are what are the key schools of thought, what are the methodologies, where are the gaps, then you can start developing your research questions. You can write your literature review, write your framework, develop your research framework, hypothesis, and so forth. And then employ the right methodology, not shortcuts, not a shortcut sampling, all right? Collect, perhaps if possible, multi-phase, multi-data collection methods, utilize. And then analyze your data in a right way, digest it, present it nicely. And then when you look at your findings, it's not overnight, but work on your findings. Really, it takes time to understand your findings. It's not creating an SPSS file. It's not just presenting everything in a figure, but just think about it, you know, go for a walk and like, so what, you know, what these findings, were we expecting these? What are the surprises? And then the contribution is, we often say, oh, this study makes a contribution to the event field. But so the hotels are similar, restaurants are similar, or overall hospitality is similar. And then what is your overall contribution? Are you making an incremental contribution or a major contribution? What is the theory? Are you developing your Buhalis theory or Cihan's theory or, you know, a new theory? So, and then the other thing is, I see faculty members collecting their data last week, and they submit their paper this week. How is that possible? I'm not that smart, not that intelligent. All right, that is almost impossible. It takes me like 2-3 months to read the paper findings and then really think about the implications. And then I am not as smart as Buhalis and Cihan, but at least I need 30 edits before I submit a paper to a journal. I edit and then put aside, I read, work on it again. My colleagues, my team members work. And then after 20 edits, then we submit. And I see like sometimes they finish their data collection 2 weeks ago. They have the paper, they submit, they don't digest, like mass production. Okay. And rejections are good for good papers, because when you receive a lot of rejections, you lose your self-confidence, and then you go back to square one, and then you evaluate everything and revise the paper, how you approach. I learned a lot from rejections, and it's a good way. And my journal, IJCHM, our acceptance rate is about 12%. But I receive many interesting emails when we reject a paper. They say, wow, we never thought about these things. Your comments and reviewers' comments are good. And finally, the right journal, I may submit a paper to, let's say, tourism review. It may not be a good paper for that journal, but if I submit it to another journal, it may be a good paper for that journal. And also time, as I mentioned earlier, a good paper now will not be a good paper in 5 years' time. So that's the field we are progressing, moving forward. All right, I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, so there is this pressure. I believe that there is a saying also, publish or perish. So if I connect to what Professor Fevzi said, is that there is this mass production, but on the other hand, there is these PhD students that need to, or other researchers that have the pressure of publish or perish and getting their PhD degree. So how does that play in? I can understand that there might be cases of this replication, and how about the issue of plagiarism? How would you tackle with these issues with a PhD student?
I think you're putting 2 or 3 things together here. One is the pressure for publication, but the pressure is for good publication, not for any publication. Okay, so PhD students, and from our conversations, how many papers can you publish out of your PhD? I get from some authors on sharing economy 5, 6 papers from the same author doing the same things. This is what we call the salami effect. You take a topic, you take a research, and you stretch it, and you stretch it, and you stretch it, and you try to get something out of it, and you cannot. So you really need to be serious about it if you're dealing with serious journals, because let's face it, there are a lot of journals out there that are not that serious and they'll publish anything. That's one thing. The second thing is, as far as plagiarism is concerned, now there's software that finds these things, and we stop anything that's plagiarized.
And I just want to add to that one in terms of plagiarism. Yes, there is a software and we use it. As a matter of fact, in GHTT and all of the journals that I edit, we used to do plagiarism check at the end. But sometimes you come to the end and then you find a paper that is 40% or 30% similarity index. And we stop doing that. Now, you know what we do? The first thing that we do when a paper is submitted, of course, the context, right? If it is not inside the scope of the journal, we desk reject it. But if they are in the scope, then we looked at this plagiarism index first. If it is more than 20%, if there is any one source is more than 1%, we just send it back. And sometimes there are some good reasons for this plagiarism similarity index to come. I shouldn't say even plagiarism, maybe similarity index, because sometimes students submit their thesis to their universities, which comes up, which is perfectly okay in some cases, but we need to double check this. But I will tell you one story that one person told me that I'm going to copy a paper one by one, word by word, but it's going to be 0 similarity index. You know how they do it? They put a white uncolored dot in between every word. So plagiarism index software don't detect it. I told them, By the time you spend the time to do this, if you write the paper by yourself, it would have been already great. So there is no shortcut in research. I want to tell all young researchers that at the end of the day, today we have this plagiarism index. We didn't have it 10 years, 15 years ago. Something else will come. You know what? Just do an original work. That's what I was telling you. And Dr. Okumus also talked about it. You need to read a lot before you write, because without reading, you cannot know. And believe me, when you start reading more and more, you will feel, you are going to feel more confident about that topic. Whenever I have a master's student or PhD student, when I tell them that when we are going to that room to defend his or her thesis at the end, I tell them that in that room, there should be nobody other than you that knows more about that topic. So that's what I'm saying. No shortcut. Please work hard and try to make an original contribution. Dr. Buhalis said that 5-6 papers. I can't really put a number into a number of papers published from a single data source. But if you were to design your data collection in such a way that allows you to be able to create different papers, not really similar, just like change one variable and then create a paper, but really different, that's perfectly fine. But then that brings also the issue of, if you were to include many variables to create more papers, then your survey will become even longer if you are doing a survey research, and then it will also yield to other programs too. But later, maybe I want to also tell a little bit about this crowdsourcing usage as well too. But maybe somebody will ask a question about that one.
So besides reading and the managerial implications and the things that we have mentioned, what is one thing that they shouldn't miss that you consider is very mandatory in terms of the submissions that you receive? That what is the most important thing that you look into to avoid a desk rejection?
For me, it's the global dimension.
Yes, I will say go and look at the author guidelines for the journal. All right. For example, all of us, 3 of us are editors of Emerald journals. We have structured abstracts. We require a structured abstract for every paper. And when they submit an article without a structured abstract, we desk reject. We say, go back and revise and resubmit. They're wasting our time and their time. And some journals, once you submit it, even for formatting issues, if they reject, you cannot submit again that paper. So it depends on the editor and publishers. And also referencing style, and then recent issues of that journal. There may be a new article on the same topic and you haven't cited. And the editor may look at that and say, wow, they haven't read recent issues. These are the things I think I would add. And then also one thing, it's happening more and more, and it's really annoying. Now, Scholar One has a system, has a function. When you add a new author during the review process, it flags. And then I am having this problem, like in the final stage, before accepting a paper, authors are adding new authors, co-authors. And then in the final stage, and then I have to check with them or the publisher, how far the 4th author you have just added contributed to this paper. Don't do these things. If you have any authors, co-authors, anyone contributed, add them during the process, not in the last minute. And also funding issues, okay? If you have an acknowledgement, add that in wherever possible, but not after a paper is published. And then one last thing, it's just really bothering me. By the way, Professor, I've changed my university. The paper is already published. Can you change my affiliation? You cannot do that. It's against the COPPA rules. And like I'm getting emails day by day about these things. Right? Thank you.
And I just want to add to this thing one. I want to emphasize, actually, they are both told about this, but I am the editor of Journal of Hospitality Tourism Technology. I receive a paper about tourism economics. I receive about food and beverage management in a restaurant. So even though we accept articles in those domains, but needs to be related to technology and innovation. So one thing that I always tell my students is to, before they submit to a journal, that they need to go to the journal, not only read the author guidelines, but also read the articles that has been submitted there, what has been published. Once you start reading, and it is a very good idea. And of course, you need to also read in that journal that you would like to publish the articles, not only the general articles, but also the articles in your domain as well, too. So those are really important things, in my opinion.
There's one other thing. When look, the amount of reviews that someone needs before a paper is published is more than 10 or 12. If you put a review on every round and everything, we get more than 10 or 12 reviews. And so an author is getting 12 consultation processes for free. So whether I'm asking an author to actually do reviews for Tourism Review, I expect them to do it. If they're lazy and I say, I'm sorry, Professor, I don't have time to review for Tourism Review, but I've got time that I get published in Tourism Review, it doesn't work like that. So increasingly, those people who are not doing their community service, they are not going to have the opportunity to actually publish because they're taking, but they're not putting anything to the community. So it's really critical for authors to actually being part of the community, to review, to engage, and to discuss with us. I think Fevzi said earlier that he's sending 8 invitations out to get 3 reviews in. And I do the same, 8 to 10, to get 3 to 4 reviews in. And we depend on the reviewers and we depend on the community to actually give and take. And it's critical that we give and take in this.
Yeah, I do agree to Professor Buhalis what you said, that I think there will be a system overload if people just started to submit their own papers and without even volunteering to review. So would that be a suggestion to a final year PhD student that they should also start this habit or the willingness to review papers so that they actually can be on the other side of the seat and actually review that paper? You get a different perspective. You can actually
absolutely, and they learn from that way. They learn when you are reviewing others, you are learning how to do your papers, because when you criticize others, you learn how to do it yourself better.
Couple of comments here. We don't allow PhD students to review for IJCHM and JHTI, but they can review with their advisors. Okay. However, when they finish their PhDs, they should go to Scholar One system and update their affiliations with doctorate, with their new jobs, and so forth. And then send an email to the editor saying, Professor Buhalis, Professor Cobanoglu, I want to review for your journal. This is my new university. And then when they start reviewing, we are grading each reviewer's performance. Okay? And then we very closely monitor if a reviewer reviews, ad hoc reviewer reviews 6 papers a year. The reviews are all good. Even if I don't know that person, I invite that person to the editorial board based on her or his publications and the review record. But last comment, I get emails saying, Professor Okumus, you are the best editor. Your journal is the best journal. Can I join your editorial board? And I look at his or her performance, no submissions to IJCHM. And we invited that person 5 times, rejected all our invitations 5 times. And then suddenly, because she's going for promotion and tenure, all right? And she needs that for annual evaluation. Then I'm the best editor. My journal is the best editor. It doesn't work like that. Anyway, I stop here. Thank you.
I guess it comes back to the question that Professor Buhalis said, that if there is no community service, then I guess it's not a win-win situation for both. So you need to do your part in order to fulfill or be in that place to be in the editorial board. Keeping time in mind, we have 15 more minutes, so we had said that we will be taking in questions from the audience, and we have Sirpa joining us with the questions from the audience. Okay. Okay. Yes, we'll be looking for the questions, but I would also like to talk about the mistakes that people often do. As you mentioned, that do you get these submissions where I can imagine that there is a situation where a person gets a rejection from, let's say, a particular journal, and he or she then copy-paste the whole things. At sometimes he or she doesn't even change the name of the chief editor and proceeds to the another journal directly. Do you get that? How common is that?
Yeah, of course we get. Yeah, we get that all the time, and you know, that doesn't really bother me. Sometimes they call me another editor's name. You know, of course that's not nice, but that's not the reason why you rejected people. You know, you have to pay some attention. But what is more important to me is that sometimes people replicate studies. So they've seen one study published in JHDT, and they go and take that study word by word in terms of the model, and then they replicate and submit. Then the first question that I ask them, that what is the contribution? What's the justification? They have to do it. But Erose, let me just tell you one more big kind of a problem that I'm seeing as the editor of several journals is crowdsourcing. Now data collation is so easy, right? Go to Mechanical Turk, go to Qualtrics. There is many different crowdsourcing websites that you pay the participants, respondents a fee, like whatever, and then in return that they fill out the questions. So that some people are even talking about that they can submit a survey within 2 hours, they get 1,000 responses. You know, to be able to measure the effectiveness of this, that I have created a survey. I call this Z3 accounting system. So I sent this to Mechanical Turk people, to 1,000 people. I said, for you to take the survey, you must have used Z3 accounting system. By the way, there is no Z3 accounting system. It just comes, I made up that name because of M3 Center. And I said, if you use this software, please take this survey. Guess what happened? All 1,000 people replied, and they said that we have used this survey. And I even asked them, what are the good things about this survey, the software in my survey, right? I'm asking these people, which this software doesn't even exist, but people still yet respond. So what I'm trying to say is that this crowdsourcing needs to be taken with precaution. I use myself also too, but some of the things that I use is to be able to integrate some validity questions inside the survey to be able to understand if people are really reading it or not. For example, what's the color of banana? Please choose red is one example. Right now, I'm doing another study to be able to see the effectiveness of these validity questions, but this is something that people need to pay attention.
Cihan is a nice guy. If you send me a paper that is addressed to another journal, I'll desk reject and say, you used the wrong email, please go to the journal that you intended to actually apply. And it's quite simple, you know. I mean, let's face it. Look, guys. Okay, Fevzi is getting much more papers than us. I think right now Tourism Review has got about 600 papers submitted. 2021 is fully booked. I've got all the papers for 2021, and I'm only looking for papers for 2022. So out of the 600 papers that are in the system that they got in, I've got to select 80 papers that are really, really super good, that they'll represent the journal in 2022. So this is the reality. So we get a rejection rate of about 88%, and we get something like 12% acceptance. So that means that your paper needs to be so good that it's going to go on this side, on the 12%. And it's going to go on 12% after about 4 or 5 reviews. It's very unlikely now that the paper is going to be accepted in tourism review for less than 2 reviews. But there are some silly mistakes. I'm dealing with an author for the last 3 days, and it's right at the end that I've decided to accept the paper, but I can see silly mistakes. I can see reference missing. So three times now, I've asked this author to actually make sure that they proofread their paper in that detail that doesn't have mistakes. And 3 times he has given me things that I can still find mistakes. And I'm very tempted, after 7 months and 4 real reviews, to reject the paper right at the end, because he is wasting my time. I don't think that people appreciate. I mean, Fevzi keeps saying that editors do never sleep, and I think he's absolutely right. And I calculated, and I put it on Trinet some time ago, a calculation of how much time it takes for an editor to do it. So for tourism review, I calculated 1,065 hours. Now, imagine that the working hours in Europe is 1,600 hours. So tourism review is effectively 60-65% of my time, my working time. And of course, I still have got my teaching, my writing myself, and all the other things. So you really must respect the system and the editorial time and all the community. And don't forget that we are looking for good reasons to get you to the 12%. But if you give us all the good reasons to be on the 88%, you'll be on the 88%.
Mm-hmm.
If authors are thinking editors are superhuman beings, they have nothing else to do but just work on the journal and their submissions, they are wrong. We have lives too, we have families, we have our own research. And when I see silly mistakes, abstract is missing, spelling errors, really poor writing, and I'm like, why am I spending my time on this? Okay. Maybe there is contribution. Maybe it's a good research, but how you present it, how you submit it. Okay. When I was a department chair, I was publishing 3-4 articles a year. When I stepped down, my publication record went up to 8-9. I think if I'm not an editor of a journal, all right, I don't know how many research projects I can work on and how many publications I have. I mean, I'm spending so much time. And my team members, I work with a very strong team, and they are dedicating their times as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think it seems that the contributions of Professor Buhalis, Professor Cobanoglu, and Professor Okumus have been so comprehensive that there seems to be no questions from the audience, but of course there is still an opportunity to leave a question or comment at chat.
How many people attended the session, if you don't mind me asking?
41 persons online.
Okay. It's a good number.
Yeah.
If we should have said that anyone who asks a question will get an acceptance in Cihan's journal, then there will be many, I think, questions or tourism review.
That was a really good suggestion. I think we should try it. We should try it next time. But we would like to request these authors that please take care of those silly mistakes. That
no, but I would recommend that anybody who is asking a question will become liable of doing one review for tourism review. So if you get something out of the pot, you need to put something back in the pot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
Wow, this was so tempting. Hi, people, where are you?
Yes, I would like to talk about some of the other mistakes that I would like to highlight. That how would you deal with that situation? That if there is a repetitive mistakes where you have these proofreadings and all these silly mistakes, if it takes a toll on you, like let's say, because I believe that people are so tempted when they get this minor revision that they don't spend so much time actually into correcting that paper. So as Professor Buhalis said, that if this takes a lot of your time, how is that dealt with?
You can reject the paper up to the end.
Yeah.
And quite often we say we reject the paper and start again. And it happens. It's not, because it takes time and it takes energy in the system.
Yeah, also, I just want to say something in terms of this paper submitting to a journal and then getting a revision. So just recently in JHBIC, I rejected a paper after the 4th revision. So of course, the authors were very disappointed, and I was disappointed myself because we invest so much time into this paper for revisions, just like Professor Buhalis said earlier, that you get really great feedback. But one thing that I would like to tell the authors is this: revision doesn't mean acceptance. Revision means that you really need to look at the comments. And when I say this, it doesn't mean that just because a reviewer said that this paper is trash or this paper, something is wrong with it, doesn't mean that you need to do whatever he or she says. I always empower my authors to be able to read the comments from the reviewers. We are all humans, right? There is a subjectivity factor in this. As much as we try to make it as objective by getting reviewers from other people, there is also a section where you can read as an author the reviewer comments. If you don't agree with the reviewer, just say so. You need to justify. It is okay not to do what the reviewer has said, but it is not okay not to address. So you need to address. You can say, dear reviewer, I understand what you're saying here. This is the reason why I will not follow your advice, and justify. And that's perfectly fine. I, as the editor, will be the middle person to be able to look. And I have accepted some papers that reviewers may not favor, maybe one or two, but at the end, when I look at the author's justification, that really made sense to me. So I want to just tell the authors, don't assume revision means acceptance, but don't assume also just because one reviewer said something bad means that you have to go and trash the paper.
Yes, thank you. And
I would suggest, rather than mistakes, I will suggest best practices. Okay. In submitting and revising articles. Basically, it starts with looking at the journal's editorial scope, submission guidelines, recent issues. And from the first page, your paper's theoretical contribution, practical implications. And you include all the references, you cross-check your references, you proofread it, you ask someone else to proofread it. You really do it well, and then you put aside a couple of days later, you read again and resubmit, and you say it's ready. So we need to develop best practices, and then you are proud, because I always say when you publish a paper, when it is in print, you cannot go back and change it. It's your signature forever. And editors are not responsible for it fully, and reviewers either. And people read your papers later, and then they say, wow, so similar, so many mistakes. How come it was published, but it's still a dent on your brand image. So do your homework, be professional, love what you do.
Okay,
we're getting towards the end, aren't we? And I just want to explain to people. And actually, we still get rejected. I rejected Fevzi's paper 3 days ago. Not because the paper was not good, but it didn't fit to the tourism review very well, and I gave him feedback, and I guess he's going to submit again sometime soon.
I disagree with him. He was wrong.
and also today I got a rejection after 5 months from a top journal, and it hurts. Editors are not here to reject work. Editors are here to select the best research for their journals. I think this is really critical for people to remember. We are here to get the best research published. And we are here to make sure that the research that's published is actually the best research that's available. So we are in the process of helping authors to improve their game and to reach it to the stage where they're going to make a good contribution. Erose, from your experience with Tourism Review, it has never been easy. We'll go back 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and you always have corrections and improvements. But actually, the final paper that is published is so much better than the original paper that has arrived. I don't recall, in my 4 years I'm doing it, I don't recall any paper that didn't improve through that process and didn't come out better at the end. And I think that is the important thing for people to remember. We're in the process of getting the best research out and to make a contribution. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you for the contribution. I think we have come to the end of this really good discussion with all the chief editors. And I would like to thank for your contribution and time. And we'll take a short break, after which we will have the second keynote speech by Professor Paul Jones. So see you then.